I do love Chanel, but to me, they've slipped a little bit in terms of them actually being a good investment. I am going to do a whole video on that though, on my Hermes journey so far and where I kind of stand on it, because you know I've spoken to you about it before and I'm not really willing to play the game, but there is potentially a way that I can get around doing that. Hi everyone, welcome to another video. I want to talk about some of the best brands that you can buy into for investment. And when I talk about investment, I probably drive you all mad talking about investment, but to me, when I buy something, I like to know I've bought an investment from one of two ways. The first way is financial, where you buy something and either immediately or in a few years it's worth considerably more, or investment from the point of view of buying something that doesn't go up in value, let's say, but it's quality, it's long term, 20 years from now they still make it and it's still in fashion. So these are my top brands, and as I go through I'm going to show you some of my favourite products from each brand as like image overlays, but I'm also going to give you a little bit of background on the history of each brand, because another thing to me is with these luxury brands we're paying so much for them. And I do believe it's because you're buying into the heritage of the brand and the history of the brand. Let's be honest, these bags don't cost the huge amount of money that they are to buy. They cost like under £1,000, I would say, in a lot of cases. And yet we're out there spending £3, £4, £5+ thousand pounds on them. There's no way they're worth it. But what are we buying? We're buying the brand. So my first brand, and I want to talk about it, is Hermes. Hermes is one that I've kind of dipped my toe into just recently, and I'm going to do a whole video on this about my journey. I hate that saying, but it kind of is. I'm seeing it now, it kind of is a journey, but I'm going to do a whole video on that and how I plan on potentially getting the bag I want without playing the game. And I don't know how that's going to go. I don't even know if it's going to work, but we'll give it a shot. But Hermes, it was founded in 1877 by Pierre Hermes, and he was actually a harness maker. He made harnesses and saddles. That is really how the brand came about, and he was really well known for his extremely high craftsmanship. But he also knew what his customers wanted. They wanted items that were simplistic but functional and high quality. In 1922, so this was like an interwar period, his son Emile took over, and his son actually was the reason why they started producing small leather goods like wallets, etc. And I think 1922 was probably the turning point for Hermes, where they went from just making saddlery to actually kind of dipping their toe more into the fashion accessories market. The other thing which I find really weird, because it seems like such a big thing to have invented, and I have double checked this and it seems to be the case, but if it's not, please let me know. But during a trip to Canada during this wartime period, it was noticed the opening and closing mechanisms on the war vehicles, on the bonnet, or if you're in the US, you would call it the hood. And apparently there was an interest in it because it gave the idea that that kind of mechanism could be used on leather goods and on bags, etc. And that mechanism we now know today is the zip or the zipper. How amazing is that, to think that Hermes are the reason for the zipper being in existence? I just find that really interesting, that that's something that can be associated with that brand. I think that's a really amazing thing. Now here's another interesting bit. The Kelly bag was created in 1930. And I'm going to put in some pictures here of it, but actually it didn't get popular until around 1956. And in 1956, that's when Grace Kelly was seen carrying it, and in that kind of like quite famous photos. And that was the point where that bag really took off. And I find it quite amazing as well to think that that bag was created in 1930 and it had been around more than 10 years. And there was probably interest, but not like huge. And it took a celebrity figure to really make it explode in terms of its popularity, even to this day. How much influence is that? Like, Grace Kelly was the best influencer out there because she's still influencing loads of us today with that bag. My next recommended brand for quality and investment is a brand called Ideal. And I specialise in diamonds and solid gold jewellery, mainly bracelets, necklaces and earrings. And I am wearing a lot of their earrings at the moment, and I'll do some close-up shots here just to show you. Their earrings are all lab-grown diamonds, and I'm going to come on to this in 1 second actually to explain a bit more about it, because from a point of view of accessibility, if you want to buy into diamonds but they're out of your reach financially and you want to wear them and have something that sparkles just like a diamond and looks classy and looks great, consider lab grown. Lab grown chemically and scientifically are exactly the same composition as real diamonds. They are exactly the same. In fact, they are so the same that it takes a very professional jeweler using a very certain precise type of device to actually look at the diamonds very, very closely to tell the difference. It is that difficult. Idol was actually founded mid-pandemic, all the way back in 2020 by Ori Sizo, Kevin Louis and Ornella Sizo. And they felt that there was a distinctive, see this is another thing in the brand that I really like, they felt there was a distinctive lack of clarity when it came to the provenance of gold and diamonds, specifically because diamonds, this is another thing about them, they can be or are associated with conflict, the way they're mined, the people that mine them, are they being paid a fair wage? Probably not. It's also detrimental to the environment, and this is another reason why they started looking at lab-grown diamonds. And Ori and Kevin actually have 20 years experience in Antwerp in the diamond industry, and that was a big reason why they thought, right, let's get into lab-grown diamonds. Composition-wise, they're exactly the same. They are more accessible to more people because they aren't as expensive. And Ornella, who is the third person involved, she has a history working at Meta, so part of Instagram and Facebook. She has come from a real tech and marketing background, and she is the one that is driving the business from the point of view of, I guess, marketing strategy. Correction, I said we were going to come on to Chanel, but I've just realised there was a brand I put in here instead of Chanel, because I do love Chanel, but to me, they've slipped a little bit in terms of them actually being a good investment. I can do a whole video on that, but I don't think Chanel is the investment that it once was. But another brand that I've had so many of you asking me about, more so since this quiet luxury thing has been going on, is Delvaux. Delvaux was founded in Brussels back in 1829. It is one of the oldest leather good houses in the world, and it's one brand that was the first to ever create the ladies' handbag. And actually in 1908 they patented their creation of the handbag. One thing that really set them aside from others was that they designed their bags, and what I love is that a lot of their bags they designed back then, they still make today. Like, how amazing is that, to have a style of bag that's over 100 years old? That's incredible. But they started creating these bags in seasonal colours. So you had these ladies that, you know, in the early 1900s, they were carrying a bag for the first time. It kind of must have felt quite amazing to them to have had a means of carrying their essentials around without having to have like full luggage. And you were now coming out with them in different colours, different style ways to match with the collections coming out by a lot of other brands at the time as well. And it meant that you had ladies who were like, I don't need one bag, I need the next one because the next one matches my new dress. Oh, I need the next one because the next one matches my new coat. Can you imagine how revolutionary that was back at the time? But the next brand is Cartier. Now, this brand was actually founded in 1847 by Louis Francois Cartier. And in 1899, he handed the business over to his 3 sons. And it was when he did that that the brand started to go global. So 2 of his sons, one went to London, one went to New York, and one stayed back in Paris. And the 3 of them made it their mission to make that brand like a globally well-known, very respected brand. And one of the things, well, 2 of the things that I find quite interesting is they were really known at the time for being able to make pieces that were at the time known to be quite complex to make, so that the way that they introduced platinum into some of their pieces was something that wasn't done at the time. Another thing I really love about it is, you know, the tank watch. So the tank watch, again, a really iconic watch with the brand. That watch was actually genuinely inspired by tanks that Louis saw when he was on the Western Front. And he saw these tanks, I think they were Renaults from memory, and he thought, how can I take a tank, which is like a war machine, and turn it into something beautiful? And that is where he had the idea for the tank watch. And again, can you imagine a watch that's that old? That is another reason why it makes that brand so exclusive and such an investment brand to buy into. And then the final best brand, one of my absolute favourites, and I love the history of this brand, is Lorna. Lorna was founded back in the 1940s, but it didn't really start picking up until the 1950s. And in the 1950s, they began supplying to top London stores. And their reputation for really good craftsmanship was so strong that actually a lot of other brands started using Lorna to manufacture their own bags, and one brand was Gucci. Gucci actually enlisted Lorna to create their bags for them. How amazing is that? In 1960, Her Majesty the Queen was seen wearing the bags, and from 1960 on, really all the way up to her passing last year, Lorna was a bag brand that she pretty much exclusively wore. And if you were into The Crown and you watched that, Lorna even got their bags onto The Crown. And I would say around about the time of the Jubilee in 2022, and definitely around about the time of her passing in the September of 2022, they were, as well as the wedding of Kate and William actually back in 2012, I think that was, they were peaks for the brand. So back when it was Kate and William's wedding, the Queen was seen carrying a Lorna bag, and on the Lorna website it actually says that their website crashed. So many people went onto their website to look to find out what that bag was and to buy it. And the same thing happened with the Jubilee and with the passing of the Queen. I purchased mine in the September, and it took months to get it. But I didn't mind that because every bag is custom made to you. In 1970, the brand did see a bit of a decline, but they realised that this in part, or for the most part actually, was due to their marketing strategy. They hadn't been marketing themselves, and they'd sort of somewhat got a bit bogged down with making bags for other brands, but not really for themselves. And in 1980, the brand was bought, and then through the 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s, the brand grew and grew. And actually in the 2000s, or 2009 I think it was, that was the point when the brand thought, okay, we've got this bag, it's very traditional looking. In order to appeal to a wider, younger audience, why don't we create this bag and offer it in different colours and make it customizable? And I think that that brand in the last couple of years has grown even more than it has before. Like, I keep looking on the website every so often because I like the Judy bag. One of you bought the Judy bag and you sent me a picture and it looks amazing. Every time I go on there, you're looking at weeks to months to get your bag, which again makes sense, but it's very exclusive. Everything is custom made to you, and I love the history behind this brand. And I'm hoping that with all of this, you can see why these brands command the prices that they do, and it's because of their history, it's because of their heritage, and it's because of the brand name that they've actually built upon. I will do one of these on Chanel just to share my opinions on that, because I always said that Chanel was an investment brand, and I think when it comes to time investment, buying something that you can wear 20 years time, they still are. But financially, I think they've slipped a bit, and I think there's reasons for that. I've kind of briefly touched on that before, but if you would like a dedicated video on that, just with my rambling thoughts on it, let me know and I can do that. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.